killed everybody? Yes, that is a very troubling question that I've asked. Will the Prime Minister kill New Zealanders? Will she be responsible? And the answer to that is yes. This is Tuariki Delamere. I'm the Auckland Central candidate for the Opportunities Party top. I used to be a cabinet minister, so I'm well aware of the issues that go on around the cabinet table and difficult decisions that ministers have to make. The reason I've asked that question is to do with what happened here, unfortunately, at Middlemore Hospital yesterday, and again this morning at Auckland Hospital, I believe it was. Yesterday, Alan Tehiko died at Middlemore Hospital because of COVID-19, and this morning, the greatly loved and respected Dr. GP and former Prime Minister Cook Islands, Dr. Joe Williams, passed away at Auckland Hospital. To the families, my great condolences at this terrible time. Now, both of these cases have been linked to the community spread cluster here in South Auckland of about 3 weeks ago. The people affected are largely Pasifika and Maori. But it could be anybody, okay? It could be anybody. It could be Pākehā, Chinese, Indian, whoever. As Prime Minister Dern has said, and Dr. Bloomfield says, coronavirus, COVID-19 doesn't discriminate. It can go for anybody, anywhere, anytime. The issue here within the Pasifika community is that there are overstayers in those communities, large numbers of them. 15 to 20,000 overstayers in New Zealand at the moment, of which about probably up to 7,000 come from the Pacific Islands, Samoa, Tonga, Fiji, Kiribati, Tuvalu. These overstayers are not coming forward to be tested. The Indian community has about 2,000 overstayers, as does the Chinese community, and not going to be tested either. Now, within those communities, especially in the Pacific Island community, Pasifika, the Indian communities, especially the Sikhs, they go to church or the temples. And so the risk of COVID-19 being unwittingly spread further afield by an overstayer is very high. And the problem here is that the overstayers, they need to be tested, but they're not getting tested. Why? Because they're scared. They're scared of being detained and arrested and deported. And I'm not trying here to defend them for their overstaying status. Okay? New Zealanders have very little sympathy for overstayers. Sometimes that may be misguided, but hey, that's another issue to talk about. But we need them tested, because what we don't need is an overstayer unknowingly sitting next to someone who turns out to be COVID-19 positive and subsequently infecting the overstayer. The overstayer then wanders off, goes shopping at the warehouse, Pack a Save, New World, Countdown, goes to church, goes to the temple, and they sit next to someone who they infect. And that person just happens to be a healthcare worker. And next morning, that now infected healthcare worker who doesn't realize they're COVID-19 positive goes off to work at a rest home, and kaboom, Prime Minister, you got 15 deaths at the rest home. Why? Because we haven't taken the steps necessary to give the overstayers peace of mind to come forward and get tested. Now, the General Manager of Visa Services of Immigration New Zealand says, no, not a problem. You know, you can be assured that we won't take advantage of the fact that you get COVID-19 tested. Prime Minister, Minister Fa'afoi, Minister of Immigration, Dr. Woods, Minister of the Borders. They don't believe you. And of course they don't believe you because Immigration New Zealand is still going around arresting and detaining people. And that spreads through the overstayer community. There ain't no way they're going to go get tested. Not unless you give them guaranteed regulatory assurance that they can do so without being arrested and detained. And it's not for them, Prime Minister, it's for us, your team of 5 million. We deserve the right to know that everything is being done. You've made eliminating COVID-19 your top priority, and I agree with you. Go for it. So far, we've done a great and wonderful job. Yeah, we've had a few hiccups, had a lot of luck, but quite deservedly, looking at the media today, we're ranked as the second most safest country in the world for COVID-19. So good on you for that, Prime Minister. But you've got to go this extra step. You have to protect New Zealanders from the overstayers who might be infected, okay? And I know they're not, because last Friday, one of my clients, Jacinda Singh, was working in an orchard illegally, should have been working there. The employer was illegally employing him. And I get all that, and those are offences. My client was arrested and taken back to Hastings Station to be deported. But they can't deport him. There ain't no flights to India. And the law says if you can't deport them within 96 hours, you must take them to the district court to seek a warrant of commitment, where in the normal situation, the judge will then sentence that person to be held in a prison for the next 30 days. Then you come back and repeat the process until you can deport that person. And when the person's hiding their passport, yeah, that's understandable. You keep them in prison until you can. But you also have to be fair and reasonable and take the necessary steps to deport them. And when there's no flights, you can't deport them. You know, you sure as heck can't deport anyone to Samoa and Tonga. They won't let anyone into their country at the moment, not even their own citizens. No flights going there. So that means these people sit in jail for months on end. And the judge agreed with me and let Mr. Singh free on bail, remanded 24/7 curfew to his home address in Hastings. But what really, really annoys me, pisses me off actually, Immigration New Zealand, they sent their lawyers to court to tell the judge that the Indian government had arranged for 2 flights in September to take people from New Zealand back to India. And that, Prime Minister, was an out and out deliberate lie to the court. There are no flights planned by the Indian government to India from New Zealand. I sent the court 11 pages through email, which the judge took into consideration, I understand, and it listed the 557 international flights that the Indian government was organising over the next 2 months to take people from those countries back to India. Not one of those 557 flights was coming from New Zealand. Immigration New Zealand, their lawyers had that information because I copied them on Sunday night as well, yet it didn't stop them going in and lying to the court. And you know what, Prime Minister? We know they're lying. And why? Because just yesterday, your government, quite appropriately, extended by 5 months the visas for all the visitors who are currently stranded in New Zealand, who want to go home. And why are they stranded? And why can't they go home, Prime Minister? Because there's no aeroplanes flying from here to wherever they live. And so, Minister Foy has told Immigration New Zealand to extend their visas by 5 months. And good on Chris for doing that, that's the right thing to do. But it's because there's no flights. And that applies to overstayers too, Prime Minister. And while you have this regime going on, run by Immigration New Zealand, going around arresting them, they're not going to come forward and take the COVID-19 test. And we need them to do that not to protect them, but to protect us, the team of 5 million New Zealanders. So Prime Minister, grant them a temporary amnesty guaranteeing that in no way will they be arrested and detained until we come through this COVID-19 pandemic. Do it for us. Thank you for listening, everybody. Those of you, if you have any way of contacting the Prime Minister or Minister Farfoy or Minister Woods or Dr. Bloomfield, please, I ask you to do so and put forward this proposal that I've set out today, because it's for us, ourselves, our friends, our relatives. We need these overstayers to come forward and be tested when appropriate. If they've had exposure to COVID-19 themselves, if they're suffering from those symptoms, they must come forward to be tested. Thank you for listening. As always, you stay safe, you look after yourself, and don't forget, wear your mask out there in public when you go grocery shopping to the warehouse, wear your masks. Be safe.